we are at the Far West Temple site in Far West, Missouri, and it's the early morning of May 7th. It is a Tuesday morning, and it's about almost 2 in the morning here. So we are here. It is May 7th, and we want to talk a little bit about what happened on April 26th of 1839. So 180 years ago, only 10 days separating now and then. So backtrack, April 26th, 1838, when all was well, was in here in Far West. And Joseph Smith, the prophet, made a revelation that on April 26th, 1839, the apostles would gather here and leave for the missions to Europe. So that was the prophecy. So sometime later that year, the members of the church here in Far West were literally kicked out, and they fled, and they went over to Quincy, Illinois. So a lot of the enemies of the church were ranting and raving that Joseph Smith was not a true prophet, because there was no way on earth that the apostles would meet here in Far West, where so much devastation had already happened, and where the enemies were in great power, that they would meet here and go on the missions from here. So the apostles, 5 of them, and about 20 other people, left Quincy, Illinois, and traveled here in a few wagons, and came here. And they arrived here shortly after midnight, April 26th, 1839. And the moon was I would say a waxing gibbous. Okay, I'm not a moon guy, but yeah, it was in between the first quarter moon and the full moon. How do I know that? Because I looked it up. So anyways, it was almost a full moon. So Heber C. Kimball said that when they got here, that it was a crisp night, and that the sunlight or the moonlight was shining pretty good. So, and not be detected by the enemy, and that almost a full moon was giving them the light they needed. So they got here shortly after midnight. They met with some of the members here and some of the homes. Then they came here in the pre-dawn hours. So the whole time frame is when they were here. And so we are here now. It's a 10-day difference, 180 years, May 7th, and 10 plus day difference. So it wouldn't have been much different from how we are now. The same air, the same grass, same trees,
Same muddy ground.
Yeah, except we aren't here under fear of enemies. I picked up William from the airport. He's coming to visit out here for a little bit.
The only thing there's a fear out here is the many frogs.
Yeah. So anyways, they came here and in Far West, and they first conducted church business. They excommunicated 31 members of the church. And then that time frame when they're all out here, they rolled the cornerstone to this area here, southwest corner, and they ordained 2 people to the office of the 70. Then they ordained 2 people to the office of the apostles, Wilford Woodruff and George A. Smith. And they did it while using this rock as a seat to do it. Then they were here. They also sung the hymn Adam on the Almond, the earth is once a garden place. And then they had prayer, so they took turns saying prayers. And the 7 apostles now, each said a prayer, and the elder apostles, in their calling, said it first, and so forth until the very end. And so then they rolled the cornerstone into place, set it in place, and then they said goodbye, and they left from this spot en route to Europe to fulfill their missions. So when enemies of the church or inactives of the church had found out that in fact that had taken place, a lot of them were pretty ticked off, because the revelation of Joseph Smith actually came to pass under the most terrible circumstances. When people think it wouldn't happen, it happened. And so people who said Joseph was a fallen prophet, were now ranting and raving because his prophecy came true, and they couldn't use that against him anymore. And so it was a pretty monumental time, and probably gave a lot of hope to members of the church that the Lord was still watching out for them. And And so we were at the same exact spot where that happened, in the same type of time frame. Now we can't see the stars tonight because it had rained a lot earlier. But it's neat to be here in the midnight hours at the same exact spot and what they were doing. So, and now we're gonna head back to Marceline, not Quincy. And I do know that Joseph Smith was a true prophet of God, and I'm very grateful for the sacrifice that he did in setting up reestablishing the church. I'm grateful for his sacrifices, for his leadership, and for laying the pathway for the restoration of the gospel. I know he was a true prophet of God, and I'm very grateful for his mighty work and what he did for the Lord and for all of us. Great example.
Priesthood, and it was basically just like saying like the four corners of the religion are building blocks are found there.